success on the field, and just getting with them after practice, playing games with them, and just sitting with them at lunch, all the little things where you could just bond and grow off the field.
Certainly sounds promising early this offseason for JJ Minnesota, but there are still some questions surrounding his top two wideouts. So let's start there. Adam, what's the latest on Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison?
Although there's no question that these are two of the most talented wide receivers in the league and might just be the best tandem in the league, but there are questions about both. Justin Jefferson has some hamstring tightness and some irritation, and the Vikings want to be smart. It wouldn't be a surprise if we didn't see him in the preseason. They're going to be careful. They don't think it's a problem for the opener, but he's had some hamstring issues before. And Jordan Addison is facing potential discipline from the National Football League for a DUI that occurred last year. So we don't know if and when that discipline will occur, but it's very possible that he could be facing a baseline suspension of 3 games as mandated by the collective bargaining agreement. Again, we think Jefferson will be perfectly okay by the time the regular season rolls around. There's a question as to when Addison could be facing potential discipline, but there are 2 questions that hang over the great Vikings wide receiver tandem.
Now, RC, can this Vikings defense carry the load early on to help JJ in the offense if they do struggle a little bit?
Obviously, this Vikings defense is extremely explosive. They just re-signed or extended Josh Metellus, who is kind of that Swiss Army knife that they use all over what Brian Flores likes to do with that simulated blitz, 2 safety, high shell scheme. But you watched as the year went on last year, there were some teams that started to pick up on the nuances of what Brian Flores did from a disguise to attack and execution standpoint. And so there are going to have to be some new wrinkles. You're going to have to find different ways to get pressure on the quarterback and find ways to create turnovers as well. Early on in the season, when this defense was playing at a high clip, they were turning the football over and they were getting hits on the quarterback. How do they find a way to do that this year when there's, again, more film on the way that they will start plays and then what they will execute post-snap? J.J. McCarthy has an opportunity to walk into a situation that's ready-made for a young player to play well. And we could also find that ACL tear or that tear of the meniscus last year was something that allowed him to watch from the sideline, see what Sam Darnold did well in Kevin O'Connell's offense, and execute extremely early where Brian Flores' defense won't need to carry the team.
Yeah, and RC, when I was with Rex Ryan with the Jets and we had Mark Sanchez, obviously he was a rookie. We know JJ's a second-year player, but it was all about what you talked about, a great defense, Brian Flores, and then we were able to run the ball. And I think early on, my suspicion is Kevin O'Connell, who ironically was on injured reserve on those Jet teams, is going to approach it in a very similar way. From a standpoint, if you look last year, they were 5th in the league in yards per attempt, and they were able to get the ball down the field, as Adam alluded to 2 great receivers. I would think early on they'll lean on the run game, Aaron Jones, that really good offensive line, and then build that downfield passing game gradually. So, again, J.J. McCarthy, not a rookie, but basically like a redshirt freshman. Give him time to get comfortable, much the way we did with Sanchez, and let that talent build and confidence build during the season.
We spent an awful lot of time this offseason talking about what the Bears have done to fortify the interior part of their offensive line. The Minnesota Vikings have done the very same thing. Yeah. They signed Ryan Kelly and Will Freeze away from Indianapolis. They drafted Donovan Jackson. They shored up the interior part of their offensive line, and they're going to count on running the football with Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones and protecting J.J. McCarthy to help this offense go. But those are some big changes up front. It's not just the Bears who have put a lot of resources into their offensive line. The Vikings have as well. Just hasn't generated quite as much conversation.
That's a good point. You mentioned the Bears. That's actually who the Vikings opened the season with. They got the Falcons, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns in those first few weeks. That's how J.J. McCarthy gets his official starting job started off. All right, so let's stay in this division, right? This is one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. Minnesota third among the NFC North teams in terms of their chance to win the division and make the playoffs. ESPN Analytics has the Packers just ahead of the Vikings. That's interesting, with a 49% chance for them to make the playoffs. All right, Jeremy Fowler's been bopping around everywhere. He joins us now from Green Bay as his camp tour continues. Jeremy, what did you see at Packers camp today?
possibilities feel endless with these Green Bay Packers tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, finally healthy together. And you could see them out there in the practice field. They were making a ton of plays. Now, the Packers had a few wide receivers out today, so that's part of the reason. But make no mistake, Jordan Love looks to both players early and often as security blanket. Head coach Matt LaFleur told me that both players have both the smarts and the athleticism to be versatile chess pieces as he schemes things up for this offense. And then it's hard to ignore first-round wide receiver Matthew Golden out there on the field. He didn't do a lot today as far as splash plays, but talking to people here on the ground, they said he's been making plays all camp, had a 60-yarder the other day. And Packers people rave about two things with him. One, his hands. He catches with his hands and not his body. And two, he is determined to be great.
I love it. Pretty cool to see him in the Packers uniform, too, getting it going out there already. By the way, the Packers play the Lions week 1. You'll see the Lions on TV tonight, the Hall of Fame game. They'll look to improve in divisional games after going 1-5 against the NFC North last season. The latest on Micah Parsons in Dallas.
Well, it feels like today the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons are further away from a deal than they were in late March when they were in hot and heavy talks at that time. But since then, there has been little, if no contact in the ensuing weeks and months. And now the Cowboys open the season 5 weeks from tonight against the Philadelphia Eagles. And more, it's going to look like Micah Parsons is going to have to make a decision about if and when he wants to play again and whether he's going to be ready to play that opening night after he's not practicing right now. Meanwhile, Malik Neighbors is back at practice, left practice with a shoulder injury. Brian Daboll said today he's good, which is obviously a huge sigh of relief for the New York Giants. Neighbors is immensely gifted. Russell Wilson has continuously looked his way. They want to have him out there, and now they finally do have him back out there, despite the fact that he had a shoulder injury. And earlier today, the Cincinnati Bengals signed free agent tight end Noah Fant, the former first-round draft pick of the Denver Broncos, who was sent to Seattle as part of the Russell Wilson trade. He's flashed at times, and he could have an opportunity in Cincinnati, where the Bengals already have Mike Gesicki there. Now they'll have Fant and Gesicki, 2 more targets for Joe Burrow, but Fant is signing a 1-year deal with the Cincinnati Bengals.
All right, let's keep our theme on the Bengals here. As we told you, Trey Hendrickson is back at Bengals camp, albeit not practicing, of course. You'll see video of him. There he's coming on in, but he's like, come on, pay me, somebody. No notable progress toward that deal. He's seeking either Adam with a report on that in just moments. But first, Trey Hendrickson met with the media yesterday in his return to Cincy, along with quarterback Joe Burrow. Let's listen in.
This is the guy that has the most sacks over the last 2 years. And, production is value in this league. When you have a guy like that, reward him.
I've mentioned it multiple times this offseason, but also I believe ownership has as well, that there are plans on not having to play under the current deal. So I think that's something we have a common goal to get to. I think that's the plan moving forward, is no distractions. I'm excited to be here. I think it's great seeing the brotherhood that's been created here, and it's special. So.
I get that it benefits Joe Burrow to have Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, but Joe Burrow's out here. Come on, pay my guys. What are we doing? Some of this is specific to the organization. But Adam, where do we stand with the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson now that he is at least back in Cincy?
Well, Laura, there's no issues working out the length of the contract. There's going to be no issues working out the total value of the contract, where the loan